Hey guys, welcome back for another video, Warehouse Amps. I recently picked up a Princeton Chorus. This is a fairly modern amp, solid state with lots and lots of knobs to do lots of stuff, including, overdrive and chorus, and there's an effects loop and headphones and all that stuff. I'm gonna attempt to turn this into a little bit more usable amp. I'll build a tube amplifier inside of here, point-to-point wiring. I haven't decided on what model yet, but this one will definitely have reverb. I'll probably try to keep this tone section the same. I think there's room enough in there for adult-sized volume pots and tone pots. So we'll do a little more complex tone circuit with treble, mid, and bass. I'm thinking about maybe using this overdrive section and putting a fuzz in there. I'm not exactly sure how that might work, but we could try it out. I don't think I'm going to continue to use the chorus section of the amplifier because it's not a great sound altogether. But what I might do, since it has rate and depth right there, is go ahead and put a tremolo on that. Foot switch I might reuse for turning on and off the tremolo or the fuzz tone, so we'll see how that goes. The effects loop I'll probably not reuse, and I probably won't use the headphones out unless I can figure out a maybe a line out right there, speaker driven line out. That might be a cool feature to have on this amp. The Princeton Chorus has two 10-inch speakers, so it's kind of an interesting shaped cabinet, a little bigger than a deluxe. Yeah, so that's going to be fun, and I like the way 210s sound. They can sound really good. We'll probably build a push-pull dual 6L6 circuit, I'm guessing, so it'll be pretty loud. It'll be in the 30 to 40 watt range, most likely. One of the challenges in using this amplifier is, in addition to all of these knobs and and all the jacks on the faceplate, is the chassis is a very weird shape. So, sorry, I can get this turned around here. So this will be a little bit of a challenge to deal with. As you can see, the chassis comes very far down into the cabinet. And normally I would think, well, that's no big deal. We could still hang some tubes, down here. There's plenty of room, avoiding the speakers and all. But the chassis itself is angled on the inside, as you can see, to avoid the speakers. It goes up at about a 30-degree angle to the faceplate. So that presents a bit of a challenge. The tubes would be sort of, kind of going in towards the speakers if I keep the chassis the way it is. So not quite sure what I'm going to do there. I'm going to get this all taken apart first to try and figure out what can be done. Yeah, so this should be a fun challenge. See if I can reuse most of the stuff here. Came with a foot pedal. Try to reuse the little reverb tank that it came with. We'll see what this transformer is doing for us. If it's an output transformer, which it might be, maybe we can reuse it. We'll see. Yeah, so stick around for this rebuild of a Fender Princeton Chorus into something that doesn't sound terrible. Okay, we're going to try to change the shape of this chassis a little bit. I just purchased this bending device, a breaker bar. It's fairly heavy duty, so it should be able to handle this little aluminum chassis. What I'm trying to do here is bend this bottom part up so that it's parallel to this angle here. And what that's going to do for me is flatten out, basically make the bottom of the chassis parallel to the top of the cabinet, so that it goes basically straight back, and then I'll have a good place to put all my tubes in and do my wiring harnesses and stuff. So I'm gonna give this a shot and hopefully it works, and we'll check back in a second. Okay, there we go. It's a pretty small bend, but you can see now that the top of this chassis is parallel to the bottom of the chassis. So that means when I remount it, the faceplate will be at an angle in the front of the cabinet, and then it'll travel down a little bit, like a 30-degree angle or whatever it was, down into the cabinet, and then it'll make this bend and become flat. So the next step will be to bring this piece out that way and then cut it to the correct height to fit inside the cabinet, which will be, you know, basically this distance from here down to here. So for step 2, I just clamped the chassis to the table, and I stood on that side and pulled it over. Now I've gone a little too far. I was just supposed to make this bend a 90, and it's a little bit deformed down here, you can see. So I'm gonna go back over that seam or that angle with a hammer and try to pound it into a better looking 90-degree bend. Okay, that was super loud. Using a hammer to get this 90-degree shape that I was going for. And it did end up with some denting on the bottom, but I don't really care. Nobody's gonna see that. So now we're gonna cut this height. We want the back and the top to be the same height, but the tricky thing is we're gonna fold this piece over a little bit. So I'll cut some, but I wanna leave a bit here to fold over to make contact with the screw holes in the cabinet, right? So that'll be a little interesting. The chassis now, because of this bend that I put in it, goes back farther into the cabinet than it did before. Originally it went back about 7.5 inches, and now it goes back about 8.25. And the cabinet's deep enough for that. That's not a problem. But the tricky thing is, this flange piece that I'm gonna bring back this way, it'll need to be longer than this one was so that it'll hit the same screw hole. So I'm gonna take some measurements and figure that out real quick. Then I'll cut this to size and I'll put a bend in it to get us where we need to be. Okay, I've got my layout here. We're gonna make our bend at about 2 5/16. I'm gonna make my cut up here at 3 13/16. So that's going to give me about 1.5 inches of material to bend inwards into the chassis so that we can meet that screw hole. And luckily the screw hole is outside of this void. Otherwise we'd be hosed. Also this void is going to be pressed up against the top of the cabinet, so no one's going to see that. That's lucky. Yeah, so I'm just going to use a cutoff wheel and an angle grinder to make this cut along here, and then we'll put this back into the bar bending or the bending brake machine and attempt to get a nice tight 90 degrees right on there. Great success. So we've got this folded all the way over. Pretty good 90. It's not incredibly tight, but it'll be fine for what we're doing. And now the faceplate top here and the back are perpendicular or even parallel. We're on the same plane anyway. And I should have enough material there to get some screws to come through the top of the sheet metal here. Okay, here's a dry fit. I've got the chassis back in and the front's secured. Here's how the back is looking. I went ahead and drilled down through here into my chassis, so I know where the screws are gonna go. I'll just need to put some threading in there so that the screws have something good to catch. And yeah, there's like a little bit of the sticky still left on here from the sticker on the back, but that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. It's also recessed enough that I could put together a back panel piece here, and maybe put a little rail behind that to kind of, you know, set it off, make it look good. Don't need it, but it might be nice to kind of protect the tubes. So I did manage to get all the adhesive off of this chassis. It was not easy though. That stuff was really on there good. So I ended up using a whole bunch of acetone to get it loosened up. And then any of the residuals, I just sanded off with some like 120 grit sandpaper. But now we're nice and smooth. We have an empty chassis that fits into this amp box very well. So I'm gonna put together a tube layout and a schematic, and then we'll start building out this new guitar amp. All right, friends, let's get an update going on the Princeton Chorus rebuild. So I've just finally decided how I'm gonna wire this. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a Princeton Reverb, you know, amplifier, but we're gonna add a couple of things to it. So we're gonna do harmonic tremolo. I found a circuit for that. We're gonna interrupt right here after the volume before it returns to the first or the second half of the first tube. And we're gonna insert this cool harmonic tremolo schematic. I'll get a close-up on that and talk you through it as we go, but basically know that we're going to interrupt here, go to the harmonic tremolo, and then come back right there where it says return. The other thing we're going to add to this Princeton is an effects loop, and we're going to put that right there. So we're going to come out and return right there before we head back into this third tube here. The harmonic tremolo is going to add an additional tube to the circuit. There's going to be one more 12AX7, so the layout will be a little different. I'll probably put the harmonic tremolo tube here, second position. So we'll have a 7025 or 12AX7, and then another AX7 here, and then we'll continue on with the regular circuit, AT7 and two more AX7s before we go to the power tubes. Cool, so I just got my board laid out. It's exactly like the original Princeton layout here. Didn't make any changes. All of this stuff we're gonna do separately, and I think I'm gonna hang most of these components right off the tube socket down here, and if I need to, I might put like a grounding bus down here, because there's kind of a lot of, you can see there's kind of a lot of stuff going to ground within this. And the Fender Princeton Chorus does have a foot switch jack on the front. So I think I'm gonna use that for this foot pedal switch here, which should allow me to turn on and off the harmonic part of the tremolo, because we're still gonna have the regular Fender tremolo section in here, but we should be able to turn on and off the harmonic part of it. We'll see about that once we get it all put together. All right, so I'm gonna solder this up, put some leads on it, and then we'll go ahead and drill out the chassis for everything.
Look, he's making pesto right now.
All right, I'm doing the layout on the chassis here for all the components. I'm going to try to reuse as many of these original holes as I can. These were the speaker outputs on the back, power input cable. So I'm going to reuse these for different purposes. Power, obviously I'm going to reuse that one for the power cable. These two are just going to be holes in the chassis to allow my output transformer wiring to come through. I've got my tube sockets laid out here. This is going to be the rectifier, and then my two power tubes, and then 5 smaller tubes, AX7s, AT7s. That 5th tube is going to be just for the vibrato, that harmonic tremolo circuit that we're building in here, okay? Over here is where my main transformer will go, and then cap can goes right here with an 1 1/8 size hole. And then over here, we're gonna reuse this hole, drill a new one here, and have a grommeted hole here for my output transformer. Oh, actually, I'm not gonna use that one, right? I'm gonna use these guys. So we'll have speaker output here, and we'll have the leads going to the 6V6s coming through here. Cool, so now that I've got my pilot holes set, I'll go ahead and use a step bit to enlarge all of these holes. I'll show you that in a second. All right, so here's my step bit. You can see that it has different incremental size increases on it, and then it's labeled on the inside here. I don't know if you can see that very well, with the different sizes. So you always want to work from smallest to largest on here. So I just did these mounting holes, and that was just one step up from 1/8. My pilot holes were all 1/8 of an inch. And then I enlarged the mounting holes by 1 step. And then the next step up will be the 3/4 for all of my 9-pin small tubes. I'm not gonna actually make this 3/8 here. I'm gonna make it here. So yeah, let's do the 3/8 first, because technically that's the first, or the smallest size. We'll do 3/8, then we'll come back and do all the 3/4. And what I like to do, since it's a little hard to see where you are on this, is I'll just find the size that I want to make, and then I'll use a Sharpie on the side to mark it. And by the time I've made a few holes, that Sharpie line is worn off, and I can put the next one on. So like 3/8 down here, and then I can put the 3/4 up here, and so on and so on. Okay, here's a little tip for the transformer placement. You'll notice I've got my transformer dimensions. This is a pineapple style, so this section is going to go up, sorry, up through the amplifier. All these wires are going to go through this hole. So I've got my outer dimensions marked here, and I've put a pilot screw hole, or a pilot hole, inside, back set about 1/4 of an inch. So that's going to allow me to use the step bit here. If I start on this hole and go down, it'll put a curved edge on it so that it'll better fit this curved edge here on the side of the transformer. Just a little, I mean, you could just cut it square if you wanted to, but it's a little nicer looking if you do it that way. And there'll be more material between the inside of this cut and the screw hole, the hole that I have to put in for the stud. So we don't want to like run out of material or have it be in here and not secure. So back set your pilot hole about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8, and then come in with your step bit until the shoulder of the step bit matches the size of this curve. Okay guys, we're jumping ahead a little bit. Sorry, I got really excited and started wiring when I realized I should have stopped before that and talked to you about all of the mounting of the hardware that we did. So as you can see, I drilled out all of my tube sockets, cap can, transformer holes, everything to get this amp rolling, and then I installed all of the hardware. So got all of the jacks and the fuse holder, outputs and returns for the foot pedal and the reverb tank, as well as most of the knobs and input jacks on the front. I'm still figuring out exactly how I'm gonna put this final schematic together. I did put my tremolo controls here in the chorus section, and then I have my potentially my harmonic tremolo adjustment here where it says volume. It kind of made sense for some reason. And then in the presence spot, I'm going to actually put a presence knob there using the negative feedback loop. To do that, I'm just going to hang the resistor and capacitor right off the back of the potentiometer in order to have like a bassman style presence on this amplifier. That was kind of a last minute change. I was originally just going to have an NFB switch here, but I decided, hey, why not go ahead and add some presence on here since there's already a spot labeled for it. Kind of cool. All right, so that should kind of catch you guys up to where I am now. So yeah, I mounted my PC board here. I have some lift-offs that I'm using. These like 90-degree guys are pretty fun. They provide a big amount of space underneath the board, a finger's width of space, so you can actually reach underneath with your finger and make sure that connections are happening and kind of touch things. I like having it lifted off of the chassis that much. It just, I don't know, gives me peace of mind, able to double check stuff. And I have most of the wiring to the first 4 preamp tubes done. I'm still trying to figure out, based on a schematic I downloaded, how I'm gonna do this harmonic tremolo, and also I want to do a send and return for effects, like an effects loop here. So the schematic I downloaded says to take it, the output from here before it goes into the reverb circuit, and then return it. And I just don't quite understand what it's telling me to do yet. So I'm going to do a little more research on that before I finalize wiring this in, and then I'll explain that to you later on once I understand exactly what I'm doing, because I'm still trying to figure that out. Anyway, so that catches you up to where I am now. Next step is going to be finishing the wiring from the front panel, all the control knobs, back into the PC board. And then I'll start trying to figure out the harmonic tremolo circuit, which is going to use this tube socket. I'm probably going to have to mount a couple of components over here, and I'll talk you through that once I figure that out.